Hi there, welcome back to Ken vs. the Stove, and today we're going to try to make apple dumplings like Mom used to make. I guarantee it ain't going to turn out exactly right, but the younger sister got me the recipe, or at least what Mom had written down. I know it ain't exactly the recipe because I know Mom used to put raisins in it, and the recipe doesn't say anything about raisins. So I'm going to skip the raisins today, just try to do it nice and basic. So what we need for apple dumplings the way Mom used to make are apples, right? 3 of them, got 3. Cinnamon. It wants me to use sugar, but I'm going to use honey. And butter. And pastries. Pastry dough. So it's pretty simple. Let me start out. I gotta get a pan so I can do the pastry dough in. Put the pastry dough on it. Actually, I think I'm gonna try to use a couple of foil pans. See how these work out for this. So it's gonna be 2 apples then, I think. And a couple of foil pans. Let's move you over here for the moment. Out of the way, out of the way. That will come back in a minute. And the first thing I think we're going to need to do is put pastries on both of these. Pastry dough on both of these. Athens phyllo dough. Now I'm not sure how well this is going to turn out. I think this may be really thin dough from reading how this is used in baklava. I mean, not dirty, nah, 5-second rule notwithstanding. It was in this pack. So now we're going to put the dough on the bottom of these here pans. Foil pans. Mom used to do these in glass pans, right? Yeah, see, this is not exactly what I was looking for in pastry dough. This is basically a gazillion sheets of really, really thin dough. We're going to take about 8 or 10 of these things. Put them in here. Because the dough is part of it, right? Now this phyllo dough stuff, right? I can't get regular pastry dough. I can either get the puffy pastry dough or I can get this phyllo pastry dough, which is really thin. So we're going to split the phyllo dough in half, this one thing of the phyllo dough in half. Half of it in this one, half of it in that one. And hopefully it'll be enough for it to be like a real dough sheet. We'll see. The sheet's falling apart on me right there. Good enough. Next thing we're going to need to do is, well, both these apples need to be cored and then peeled. Okay, so now we're supposed to take ½ cup sugar, 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon, and 1 tablespoon of butter. And put it all in this thing together. Means we need the cup. And we need these again. let's turn the heat on. This front burner for this thing. So, half cup of sugar. We're going to substitute in honey for this. Should make it interesting. And about right. One and a half teaspoons of cinnamon. And 1 tablespoon of butter. That heat up for a bit. Okay, that's nice and soupy. Let's see about putting it in to the apple. I see the flaw I'm going to run into already. The fact that I heated it up and used honey instead of using sugar like the recipe calls for means that it is not going to stay in the center. And the whole point of coring it and putting it in the center is to have it stay there. Ouch, ouch, hot, hot. It told me I had to get my hand wet to do this. Yeah, it's the wrong kind of pastry. Definitely not going to work as well. Do this again later. I am definitely going to have to do it with sugar. I get obstinate sometimes and want to use honey instead of sugar. I don't know that it's actually better for you and all that. I mean, I know that the purists all talk about how, oh, you must do it with that, you know, that honey is so much better for you than sugar. I don't know. Okay, so that's that. They're together. Yeah. God, I gotta find a better pastry dough than that stuff. Okay. Now we need to make the stuff that goes around the outside of it, which is basically more of what we just did for the inside of it, except this time I think the fact that I'm using honey will probably work better. Okay, now next we need to take a cup of sugar. We'll do a cup of honey. Four tablespoons of butter. Of course, I just put the butter away. Half teaspoon of cinnamon. And 2 cups of water. Mix it up a little bit, get it nice and warm. Okay, now we take the cinnamon stuff that I just made and we pour it over these. Pour it around. Okay. So now the apple dumplings are covered and done completely. Again, I think using the doggone honey instead of sugar probably not allow it to be thick enough. But let's drive on and see where we go. Ah! The pizza sheet's still in there. Dang it. The by now burning hot pizza sheet is still in there. Try not to touch that. Okay. Let's put the apple dumplings in. The oven is set at 500 degrees right now. It is supposed to be baked for 7 minutes at 500 degrees and then changed to 350. Okay, it's been 7 minutes and now I'm going to turn the oven back down to 350. It is supposed to be at 350 for 30 to 35 minutes. Knowing that my oven or stove actually seems to be run a little bit hotter, get things baked a little bit quicker than expected, I'll probably hold it at about 30. So I'll see y'all back in about 30 minutes. We're back. It's been a little bit over 30 minutes. So let's pull them out. I do not have high hopes for these, folks, by the way. I think I screwed up when I switched honey in for the sugar. I think that the sugar was kind of needed, to pile up in the little holes in the core hole to make it work better, or to stay in there and spread out from that point as it baked. Whereas when I made it with the honey, it just went straight through. Smells good though. Gotta say that. I think again. Well, it looks burnt on top. Okay. Number 2. Yeah, it looks burnt on top as well. There ain't no way I'm eating either of those for at least 20 or 30 minutes until they cool down some. On top of which, I ain't eaten one of them before I've had something at least semi-nutritious for supper, because I'm not sure there's anything nutritious in that thing at all. Arguably the apple, maybe. But we'll see in a little bit how they turned out, and whether or not my dogs are getting, an apple dumpling for their midnight snack tonight. Okay, so that was a disaster, and I mean unmitigated, bad. I mean, I dug the apples out of them because a Rome apple bakes really well and tastes good, even if the rest of it's a disaster around it. 3 things I think that combined to make this a disaster. First was when I put honey in instead of putting sugar. I think the whole thing, because sugar will make it more sludgy, and that makes it work better, right? Honey, it just became very liquid and it didn't work. Like, you core the apple and you're supposed to, once you get it in there, the pastry, planted down on the pastry, you're supposed to fill it with the sugar and cinnamon and a little bit of butter. And it doesn't fall through, right? It doesn't through the bottom. It sits there, and then when it bakes into the apple, right? You have to be a little bit careful in these things. You do end up sometimes with a plug there that's just pure, cinnamon sugar. It's a little bit too much, but by making it with honey instead, the honey and the cinnamon and the butter just went out the bottom. Even when I had it, kind of put down into the pastry to try to plug it, nope. Not having any of that, it just went boom, out, right? So that was my error. Error number 2 was those stupid phyllo, just god-awful phyllo pastries. Because I realized I bought like 3 boxes of things. I thought I was, had to find some other use for it. I tried to make pizza with these things, right? Took one of the rolls, and it, like, 20, 30, 40 little tiny rolls, put it down, kind of crushed them together, rolled the edges up a little bit, and put a bunch of cheese on it. Instant pizza. 25 minutes later, pull it out, inedible. Just inedible. The pastry was terrible. It just fell apart everywhere. It just, no. This phyllo pastry has one use, and one use only, which is why I'm kind of surprised to have it at our local stores. The only use I can see for this stuff is baklava, or if you learned this dessert first from Greeks rather than Arabs like I did, baklava, right? Yeah, it could work for that. Other than that, this is a useless pastry. So my grocery store has puff pastry and this stuff. I just need regular pastry that I can put down, and roll ups and push together to bake this stuff. Phyllo is not going to work. I don't want puff pastries. That's not the point of it. The point isn't for it to go like this when you bake it. It's supposed to be a nice pastry that conforms around the apple. So that's two, right? Third might be, in all honesty, that as I've gotten older, right, mid-50s, fighting off the midlife crisis, things that taste really, really sweet, I don't want them anymore, right? It's not like when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you could have handed me, a sack of sugar, and I probably could have eaten it and been, wow, this is amazing. Now it's like, they put too much sugar in this, they put too much sugar in that. A lot of things put too much sugar in. And I get the feeling that even if I had made this with sugar instead of the honey, just kind of gave it a weird flavor. The honey did make the bread, at least a good amount of it was soaked and had some flavor. But it was way too sweet. I mean, it was way too sweet. And I think that part of that might be the honey. Because it just tends to be, it tends to be a little bit sweeter, although I like the taste better than sugar. And part of it might be, I think the way they intend you to do this is rather than put them in the pie dish like I did, which is the way my mom cooked them, right? She put them in glass pie dishes, if I remember right. But instead of putting them there, they expect you to put it on a big cookie dough sheet and kind of drizzle the stuff over top of it, not pour it over top and let it sit in it. Made it too sweet. Now, when I was a kid, that was awesome. I loved them. They were sweet, had an apple, and I could just about eat anything with apples or raisins in them, and Mom later on put raisins in them. Nowadays, not so much, right? I may try this again in the future if I can get decent pastry, right? And if I, do, I'll follow the regular rules or the regular recipe rather than trying to mess around with honey. But, I can't recommend this to anybody. I really can't, sadly. Maybe if I redo it and it turns out better next time, I'll change my mind. But as it stands, to the best of my ability, I screwed it up, and you shouldn't do this. And on that downer, if you like what you saw here today, me failing at another recipe, hit subscribe, hit the bell, hit like, all that good stuff. If you want to get a hold of me, LammersK on Twitter, direct message me, that sort of thing. And beyond that, folks, I just got one thing left to say. Ma salama, y'all.